Well, hello, that's me again. Today is October 4, 2023. It's Wednesday, and I'm just fresh from fighting off Jehovah's Witnesses at my front door. So I'm kind of gonna, just calm down a little bit while I'm doing this video. But let's not put away things into the long box, so to speak. And let's start with the simple little update. Let me show you something. This is the butcher's bill for today, aggregate. This is the 4th, and as you can see yourself, already in October, almost 2,000 KIAs on the Ukrainian side, and yeah, the tanks being burned and things, so just good old basically process of annihilating the whatever is left from the armed forces of Ukraine. And those who actually watch and read my blog, you saw yesterday that Vera, Marat Khairulin, Larry Johnson, and I had the sort of the round table, and we have been exchanging ideas on the issue of the special military operation. Considering the fact that Marat is not only extremely famous in Russia, and he works for a number of the major TV networks, but he essentially is attached now to the Slavyanka division. Now it used to be brigade. And the fact is that we inevitably come to the conclusion, and while visiting Moscow and St. Petersburg and talking to my friends, we also came to this conclusion that Gerasimov and General Staff, they have this unique opportunity to shape Russian armed forces for the 21st century. And that is why sometimes some operations, unless you understand what is going on, you will not recognize the fact that it's not just the fact of fighting and killing. I'm sorry to say this, it's a horrible thing to say this, but yeah, annihilating the personnel and equipment of the what essentially amounts to NATO forces, but it is also shaping the army, shaping the armed forces in such a way that they already are the best in the world, but I mean they become absolutely untouchable in terms of its military experience. And this is what is happening, and that is why we discussed yesterday. You are free to go and look it up through my blog. I believe Larry also posted it, and you can hear there are some very interesting things, especially from Marat, who is on the front lines practically daily. So this is what it is we're talking about. And then of course we have this the guy who was the ski instructor and then spent the whole 44 weeks in Sandhurst, evidently learning nothing, as actually the practice of the United Armed Forces of United Kingdom shows. But Ben Wallace, former defense secretary, look at this. The guy, obviously, he doesn't understand what real warfare is. He doesn't understand how combined arms of scale, when you have essentially 2 to 3 combined arms armies operate. And he says that, believes that slowly but surely Ukrainian forces have been adapting tactics, absorbing lessons, and making the best of the equipment we have all gifted them. And that Kiev victory is imminent as long as the government plays its part. So the guy is ignoramus, basically, which you would expect, considering the fact how they prepare the officer cadre. And again, Sandhurst, 44 weeks. Are you kidding me? It's not enough to prepare the basically housekeeper, but let alone the cadre officer. But here we are, and the guy thinks that the only way to win it, of course, is to basically recruit more young blood from Ukraine. That means, yeah, 17-year-old kids, but then again, Ben Wallace doesn't know what real war is, and so, yeah, why not to call for it? It's normal situation with the psychopath who actually infested the Western political elites, and so he wants to throw in those kids. And now we have the visual representation. If you look, go to any other resources other than YouTube, you will see yourself that actually people who are from the armed forces of Ukraine who surrender in tens of thousands now, really, you look at them, my gosh, these are not young men. I mean, to put it mildly, there are many people above 50. So that tells you old story you need to know. Basically the force is broken and is not workable anymore. It's every single attempt to do something is repelled with the colossal losses for them. So this is that part. But now let's go to the other thing, which shows you how, I mean, these guys lie. And you know, I am obviously on record, definitely, so it's, I've been repeating it ad nauseam, but as we already know, and again, it's this proverb obviously is in Russian, but it originates from Roman Empire times, that repetition is the mother of learning. And here we have yesterday, I believe, let me see, was it yesterday? No, it was actually a week ago. The Bloomberg, this lying machine and bunch of the creeps from New York, they say that Russia's industry surges as Putin seeks to feed war machine. War-related industries to boost 2023 output by almost a third. Production spike comes as other industries have slowed. And here we come obviously to what they do. They lie through their teeth. They're a bunch of the, again, as I already stated, average American journalist has no morals, has no understanding of right and wrong, and I'm talking about especially editors, because they spew propaganda, and here I'll show you why it is propaganda. And we will start already with the what is called Production Manager Index, which was published by the number of the Standard & Poor's and JP Morgan. And as you can see yourself, Russia leads the world by September of the 2023, and it's the first number one in the world in terms of growing its industries. As you can see yourself, it's Russia, then of course China inevitably grows, USA, yeah, not too good, but as you can see yourself, the last bottom line, if you say, or bottom of the barrel, is Germany, which is being deindustrialized together with Czech Republic and other places like France, and with incredible speed. It will only accelerate because the United States needs to eat too, and they will twist hands of those people like Scholz and Macron into the utter submission until, of course, things change, which already started to change, judging by the events in the US Congress yesterday. So, but as you can see yourself, here is the issue what the S&P explains: the global Russian manufacturing PMI, strongest expansion in new orders since January 2017, fastest rise in employment since November 2000. Input buying grows at record pace despite sharper cost inflation and things of this nature. So, and of course, it's actually this one is 2 days ago. And when you start to think about it and ask yourself a question, is it the war effort which drives it? I have news for you. No, it was happening already. But of course, Bloomberg, being what they are, a tabloid basically run by some short, midget who thinks about himself the ruler of the world. I mean, they lie. Again, lying is the professional qualities they teach in the basically journalists and PR schools in the combined West. And here is how they lie. For that, to understand why they lie, you can easily go and you can confirm yourself that basically it's not all about war machine. In fact, most of it is not about war machine in Russia. For that, you go to the Rosstat, official Russian government statistical department, which publishes quarterly reports about this. And I showed you last video one of those scans, but you can go at rostat.gov.ru, I believe, but you can look it up. It's very easy. It's available, unlike most of other websites, which are Russian websites, which are blocked in the Western world, so much for free speech. So, and here it is. If you take a look at this, in the list, and as you can see yourself, in the leftmost column, not leftmost, second leftmost column, or second right, if you wish, depending on how you look at it, they do comparison to the August 2022 by the August 2023. And if you take a look, you see yourself that, for example, production of the computers and electronic and optical devices, growth 154%, electrical equipment growth 126%, all kinds of machines 104%. And here comes this thing. Okay, let's say the production of the clothes 109%. Production of the leather and all kinds of leather clothes 111%. Yeah, there are some, for example, as already stated, drops, like, which is good, is the tobacco is down, so there is some down in terms of the extraction. But again, extraction as an industry, it also fluctuates usually pretty wild, if not violently, significantly throughout the year. And then you have the food products 108.8%, and the services in the extraction 104.4%. Production of the automobile transport, it's 141%. And furniture, how is the furniture even factors into the war machine? 142.8% growth. So does it mean that Russians, get into the walls beautiful, bookshelves or couches into their own military equipment? No, obviously not. It's have been already in it was in gestation. Now it began to manifest itself once Russia recovered from the initial impact of the sanctions. And so if you look at the other finished products, 127.8. And then if not this and this not enough, let's go further. Look at this. As you can see yourself, again, in the yellow, it's the growth in percentages to August 2022. For example, tractors declined somewhat, but then again, it's in the same time, the sowing machines, as seeding machines, essentially. I don't know how the proper agricultural term for that. The ones which seed the fields, 105.3%. Then you have bulldozers, 102.4, lifts, elevators in the buildings, 128.9%. How are elevators in the buildings are related to the war machine? I have no idea. Maybe the Russians use now, precision guided elevators, to shoot at the, Ukrainians. I know Ukrainians said that the air conditioners were blowing up at some point of time. I don't know. But obviously that means only one thing: the radical expansion of the civilian construction for the, apartment buildings, which obviously you need there. When you look at any Russian city, they are tall. All of them are tall, starting from the measly 12 floors to 50 to 65 floors skyscrapers. So there you go, you need elevators. And then you go into the equipment for the production of the bakery and other, bread and other food products like that. 197.8. Then you go into the buses, and with a maximum weight of 5 tons, 186.3%. And when you go over it, railroad cars, civilian, just passenger cars, 191%. And you go over it and you begin to look at it, that majority of it is actually civilian sector, which was expanding like crazy once Russia absorbed the initial impact of those sanctions. And it will continue to do so, and it has nothing to do with war machine. And let me explain something here. I already elaborated a little bit on this issue. If you look attentively at the commercial aviation, you have people who constantly, you go look up on YouTube, all kinds of videos which dated like year and a half ago, which of course have been in the wake of the immediate impact of the economic sanctions. There are all kinds of them which say, oh, Russian civilian aviation cannot survive. It will basically collapse, and, without Western technology. Well, I have news for you. So, as I already stated that, and last time I spoke about it, you will see yourself that Russia already has the 18 airframes of the MS-21 being produced right now for basically end of the 2023 transfer to Aeroflot. 6 of them are already practically ready to start the trials. So 18 minus 6, we have another 12 airframes for 2023. You have 34 Superjet 100 fully Russified, not a single Western element there, and this is only for the just Aeroflot and some other Russia airline. So as you can see yourself, evidently Russia is doing just fine, because if you look at the date of this news, is just published on the September 11, 2023. Here what you see here is the Sukhoi Superjet, but now they are SJ-100s because they are fully Russified, including the actually Russian PD-8 engine, which should be certified by the end of the year. And here is, you can take a look, some of the assembly lines. These are Sukhoi jets. As you can see yourself, it's one of the facilities, and as you can see yourself, yeah, it's just the part of the production line, and this is probably even the older photo, something from the maybe 2-3 years ago, but it's all there. It was all being manufactured. It's just not being reported by the Western journalists because they have this huge butt hurt. And then of course we have the situation not only with the Sukhoi or MS-21 jets fully Russified. We have another fully Russified jet which flies and has been in the serial production, as I already mentioned many times, since actually 2000, if my memory doesn't fail me, 2021. It is Tu-214. It's a classic Soviet, so to speak, aircraft, many will tell you, but the reality is, unlike Tu-214 is actually, first run was already fully in Russia, and it was produced in the, actually as the new aircraft. There are some significant changes in terms of the, when you compare it to Tu-204. The only complaint Aeroflot and other companies have is just the fact that Tu-214 has the 3 man or 3 pilot cockpit. Some say it is a disadvantage. Aeroflot obviously complains because it takes a lot of well, additional, let's put it this way, expenses. But the point is, there is also the version of Tu-214, which is actually 2 pilot cockpit. It is pretty modern aircraft. As you can see yourself, it has the very modern, it's glass cockpit, basically, you know, so it's Russian cockpit, all of it is made in Russia. So, and it's not only that, it's essentially a Russian variant, or if you want to call it this way, it is the Russian version of Boeing 757. No, it's not direct version. It has nothing in common in many respects, but it is essentially in terms of the transport niche. It is mid-range narrow-body aircraft, and just to kind of clear some confusion, if you go onto Wikipedia, well, that's not obviously a very reliable source, but still, nonetheless, Wikipedia gives it the range of barely 4,000 kilometers, reducing it by more than 50%. Well, in reality, from Tupolev side, Tu-214 based aircraft, its operational range is actually 6,500 kilometers, which is comparable and actually better by 200 kilometers than Boeing 757, which is being strongly considered back into the production. So there you go. Even there they lie. But point is, Russia has a modern commercial aviation, which is fully independent from the West, and this is a player, and they are afraid to see this player coming up with the strong performance, and that's exactly what is happening now. Have there been any delays? Oh, absolutely there have been. But will there be some other, probably what is called moving to the right of production cycle, or things of this nature for this aircraft? Possible, but the point is, the ramping up of the production is here. You can, it's tangible, you can really touch it. I mean, physically come and touch all those aircraft, which are beginning some flight tests already, and others will be transferred to number of the Russian, oh, here's the presidential national alert. Okay, yeah, I know it's test. You really, okay. So anyhow, and the point is that no matter how they try to play it, they cannot basically disguise it anymore. They cannot hide it anymore. And they have to live with this reality that basically they look at the Western world, which is being destroyed industrially, economically. And then they have this damn Russia, so to speak, which, you know, just doing just fine. Especially considering the fact that it's actually under non-stop sanctions. And if this hasn't been enough, if you look at the tables which I already produced for you to show you what is going on in terms of the manufacturing, and it's not only the production of the, for example, civilian aircraft. Here is the really civilian thing. This is the newest version of the 3AS5K 1411 electric engine. It's a state-of-the-art, it's a beautiful machine. Russian Transmash Holding, which is gigantic corporation, produces many of them, all kinds of them. They now produced the newer version of it with the new cabin, and as you can see yourself, these are up-to-date modern electric engines, electric locomotives. Of course, Transmash Holding produces the locomotives of other type, diesel locomotives. And when you look at the data, it's again growth. You can look it up. I believe it's 114 or something like %. So it's a dramatic growth. But of course, many people still do not understand when they look at it and say, what else? What else? Well, how about that? Russia produces a bunch of the transport, really interesting, you know, hydrofoil and that type of electric vessels which transport many people in Russia. Look at this. This one of them. Growth, again, something like, I don't know, look up this tables. I'm not going to be, you know, reading to you all those numbers. Or, for example, this transport vessel. Yeah, they produce those, and these are not a single variant. They produce them in bulk. So this is another transportation, passenger transportation. For those who do not know, Russia actually produces their basically recreation and yachts. Some of them are pretty cool, and I'm talking about, obviously, when you look at the United States, on the surface United States, especially if you go and look at the marinas, for example, in any kind of the city, coastal city in the United States, of course, they are really stuffed with the great, you know, expensive yachts. But so is, for example, a freeway system of the United States, which is still a great system. And the point is that United States have been accumulating wealth uninterrupted since the end of this Civil War, 1865. There was no war, and so as a result, of course, the United States accumulated considerable wealth, material wealth, which, for example, Russia is not going to catch up in terms of this wealth for a long time. I don't think so. She needs to. That's the point, because Russian consumer patterns somewhat different from American ones, although I have to admit there are some very serious similarities, unlike it is, for example, with Europeans. And when you look at this, material wealth is much more profound than that. And when you look at this, you begin to see, oh, my gosh, Russia produces so much, and most of it, I mean, if you look attentively, is not even dependent on anything Western produced. Here is, for example, just a few days ago, there's another huge trawler which Russians floated out, and this is a state-of-the-art trawler. I'm pretty sure some of it, part of it, obviously, is Western made, but then again, as I already stated, when you look at the import substitution, the speed with which Russia actually removes Western components, here is the example. But this is now is naval one. Forget about just frigates. Just 2 days ago, Amur Dalzavod, Amur shipbuilding plant. By the way, these are very bad news for Japan and the United States. Yet another 2 missile ships of the Karakurt class, all Russian made, obviously, including propulsion. And these are the carriers of the, obviously, Caliber missiles and Zircon missiles. These are bad news, so it's another 16 missiles adding to the salva if anybody decides to do some stupid things. on the Russian Far East. And that's where we come to this point. They've been hiding what is going on, and which also goes back to my previous video about pure economics 101. They've been hiding this because, unlike it was the case, for example, in 80s and 90s, when they were trying to make, which they made kind of facade, this beautiful glass window, of the Western capitalism, let's say, out of Poland, providing all those privileged loans and grants and things like that to show, oh, you see, that's what we are. Truth is, this was all deliberate and contrived. A reality, of course, of the modern economics and modern economic management in the West is grim. I mean, you have people who really are stupid. They are really running everything into the ground. Not all of them. There are still great American corporations which still are capable to produce some things which is, which are good. But again, take a look at Boeing. And I have connection to Boeing, and commercial aviation. I worked for subcontractor, and it's not an alien question to me. It's really sad what is happening to the company, and if you look attentively at their story, so to speak, in the last 7 years, and which was culminated with those 737 Maxes killing 300 something plus people, it is a sad story. And it's not only that, the fact that they are considering returning to the production of 757, it is a stopgap measure. Yeah, you can stick a lot of things into it, but this is still 1980s design, really, unlike, for example, Tu-214, which is actually 90s design, despite the fact that the predecessor was from the 80s too. And so that's what many people do not understand. And when you begin to compare the model, and then you suddenly look at manufacturing of all aircraft industry in Russia, it is massive. And that's the thing. Another matter that Russia was primarily concentrating of producing, quite a significant number of the combat aircraft. But now what you see today is, this is what many of them, those guys with the MBAs, they have no clue. They don't understand how the retooling process happens in Russia, how the whole thing is going on there, how it is developed, how those tools are produced. This, when you look up, again, the number which I produced to you previously, that, yeah, you look at the other machines and they grow. What are those other machines? They are tools and dies. There are all kinds of other machine things, which, for example, Russia produces the largest, most important mills and lathes, which can actually turn something like the driving shaft of their large ships. These are all Russian made. They are not foreign. And that's what you cannot explain it to the person who thinks that iPhones grow on the trees, or that iPhones just, you can conceive them as some kind of the plant, just seed it into the ground and here they are. They don't understand what stands behind the real economy and how it operates. Nobody cares about the finances, as Mr. Peskov stated yesterday, when he stated that, we don't care about really the exchange rate for the dollar. Indeed, why do you need it when dollar has a very limited circulation in Russia, only through their banks where you have to exchange your currency? Reality is, when your currency is supported by your internal production, your internal gigantic resources, why do you need it? For some exchanges during the financial trade, trade with who? That's the issue. The West doesn't want to trade with Russia, but Russia is doing just fine trading with, for example, China, India, any other country in their own currencies. And of course, eventually this mechanism will be developed in such a way that BRICS will have some kind of its, if not currency, at least some mechanism of the mutual accounts, settlement of the mutual accounts. So, you look at this, yeah, and eventually Russia is not going to produce all of it, but most of it. Nobody knows that Russians produce still state-of-the-art X-ray machines, own MRIs. state of the art, and you look at this, it's just like, yeah, hello, just wake up, look at what you're dealing with. Now you cannot explain for them idiots who can, just now want to count prostitution and selling of the drugs as a gross national product. There you go. I mean, how do you even communicate with those people? They are incapable. These are precisely the people who sit in the Bloombergs, New York Times, Wall Street Journals. They have no clue. And you can definitely go and research something if you're a journal. For example, like some journalists from the Seattle Times who have been on Boeing, so to speak, and dealing with Boeing, having their sources there for many years, for decades. Of course, eventually they begin to get some things. But again, they are mostly on the surface. It's just like I'm demonstrating here to you. You can go and look it up, for example, in military terms, so the, combat manual from Russian army from 2005. And this is the combat manual, which is obviously made for platoon, the tank, the, squad, and things of this nature. You can go there and start looking at those schemes and read the instructions on how things have to be performed in defense, in offense, in the ambushes, like fire ambush by the platoon of tanks, which is 3 tanks, and this is how you do it. But you cannot explain those people who basically shysters from the military, who constantly talk to people about those tactical minutiae, that actually you have to fight properly, operationally and strategically. You have to have this planning, which is crucial. And then, of course, that reflects vertically, top, bottom, bottom, top, on the tactical level. But tactical level, they think, is so simple to communicate and discuss. No, it's not. Real tactics is much more complex than that, but still, here you are. And that's what I am on record constantly. They are ready to discuss some garbage industry, like, I don't know, audit industry, which, okay, it's important, audit is important, but they're gonna talk about it as some kind value added in Wall Street Journal or in Bloomberg. But they cannot communicate with the real technological things, real tangible economic things, the same as they are utterly unqualified, like Ben Wallace, to perform their or offer their, extend their opinions on basically operational or strategic level. They simply have no clue. They don't know. And when you look at obviously this whole picture, this explains to you how they miscalculated. And it's time for them to face the music, and the music is playing. So this is what I wanted to tell you guys today. And as always, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee and too. And that helps me to basically work for you guys. So what can I say? All the best for you for the rest of the week, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.